Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a recent hit piece that was done by, an attack piece that was done by a very well-known, very leftist, super ideological media outlet. And they were doing this hit piece on one of the wealthiest, if one of the two or three most expensive private boys' schools in Australia. The school's located in one of the wealthiest postcodes in Australia. So it lines up a few things there, primarily white, male, wealthy, privilege and power, this sort of stuff. So that's, let's go after them. And now the hit piece was done just according to formula. They've got quite a tight formulaic approach, these guys, when they want to do a hit piece on. And invariably their subjects are religion, white men. they don't stray far from racism and gender issues. They're not dealing with why is real estate so expensive, and if they touch those subjects, it's only because, the government just has to build more houses. That's it. Then you do the mass market. No. So they're very, very much aligned with United Nations talking points, globalist talking points, and of course, both the United Nations and the globalist cabal use race, gender, and sexual proclivity, LGBTQ issues as the wedges to dismember and degrade and destroy Western society. And there's a lot of people on staff there that are firmly of the belief that there's a socialist paradise, a nirvana just around the corner. If only we can disempower all those fucking white men, then this paradise will just appear magically out of the ether. And it's odd because quite a few of the people who are involved in this, and I know quite a few of them, they've become quite wealthy through divorce and inheritance and so on. They own multi-million-dollar property portfolios. They've got jobs for life. They've got Harbour View mansions and this sort of thing. And yet they're running around wanting this socialist paradise to appear. But it's always someone else who has to pay for it, not them. Will they give up their house to no, someone else has to do it. So they've always got this strange childlike attitude that other people have it infinitely better and easier, no matter how well off these folks are. So that they've got this strange, very childlike. Not one of them that I've met, by the way, has not behaved like a child, and I think that's one of the prerequisites of this. But nonetheless, they've gone to do a hit job. Now I knew quite well one of the women who was on the education advisory board for a particular region in Australia, and it's always been a burning issue for these. This is feminist cabal stuff. There's always been a burning issue for them about private boys' schools, because they can inject their ideology into government schools or into the lower level schools that basic sort of Catholic schools, where the government still stumps up quite a lot of money for these schools. So the government gets a much bigger say. So if the government says, well, you've got to have the proverbial black lesbian doing a tour of the schools, telling those evil white boys how Nazi racist they are, then the school, that's tied to funding. So if the school rejects it, then they lose funding. And the parents of the students aren't rich and can't really make up the difference that easily. So they rely to, but in these private schools where they can collect $50 million in fees a year and various other donations from wealthy people, then the government may only pay 10 or 15%, as in taxpayer contribution to, and therefore the say that the government has is much less. They're much less able to force ideology onto feminist ideology, lesbian ideology, whatever. They're much less able to force it on them. So this is something that outrageous, the feminist cabal. If there's even one student in the entire universe that is not being subject to radical feminist ideology, being lectured on, how the kids being lectured on how racist they are and how misogynist they are and how this and that, and they all must. And the fact that there's these little enclaves of private school students, boys, particularly boys, that double enrages them, that's actually escaping this ideological sort of thing that just absolutely drives them to apoplexy. This woman was, as she started to talk about how these private school boys were escaping the ideology, she started to shake and fidget, and it's that important to it. It's so deeply ingrained. They have to force every boy to get hit over the head with the ideology. So anyway, so there's this hit piece, which again, very formulaic and kind of through editing and omission, they make things sound much worse. So they rather than list supposed crimes and misdeeds of this school or the school's staff and students, they kept talking about misogyny, and they kept talking about patriarchy and disrespecting women. Disrespecting women, you fucking Nazis. So they're constantly pushing sort of these so vague and emotional and gender studies talking points type sort of stuff. And what were the specifics? Well, I've never been so upset. I just had a meeting with the school management and I feel so disrespected. And that was really the level of so quite vague on the points that. Now there's other stuff that just didn't ring true. For example, a teacher who was put forward as being I don't know, probably a woman in her late 40s, I would guess, who was put forward as being a really high powered and super experienced and this sort of thing. And she was, she claimed that she was, she spoke like a feminist. So why the school would hire her is quite beyond me. But why let in these people who are, I think, purposefully being put in there by third parties in order to create the disruption that they then attempt to exploit. Go, see, Nazis. And I think that's what was going on here. But I'll come back to that in just a minute. Now, this woman claims that she was treated so badly, as in not treated badly, as in that they put they made life specifically hard for her, but she wasn't being respected enough, and that her motives were being questioned. I'm a woman; they're not allowed to question my motives. Those fucking damn misogynist Nazis. So she came from the point of view that I'm a victim, I'm a woman, I'm an oppressed minority. How dare they question me? They've got no right to question me. Well, they do. They're your employer and you're being paid. So there are things that she wanted to attend some sort of women's empowerment, teachers empowerment, female teachers empowerment conference. And the school didn't sponsor it, but she decided to go anyway. There's a technical argument whether or not she had permission, but that was frowned upon. Why are you doing that? Why are you going to what is a radical leftist activist conference? Why are you not teaching students instead? And she's not available for after school coaching, which is a big deal in these private schools, by the way. I've been to one, so I can attest to that. And she isn't available for, is rarely available for it. So there are a few things. Now you could argue both. Is it a specific part of your employment contract that you must be available at certain hours a day or a week or whatever year to do after school coaching? And if it's not specifically in the contract, but rather is a tradition that has been respected for generations, that's slightly different. And you could argue both cases of that. Would either side be right or wrong in that? Probably not. I was in that position, and it wasn't in my contract, but it was a tradition I could see every other teacher doing it, then I would go along with it as best I could, rather than try and say, if you make me do it, you're a misogynist, you're a Nazi. You know, that's counterproductive, and of course it's going to get an unfavourable response from your colleagues and the management if you try and play that card. But when she didn't get her own way, this teacher just kept on playing the feminist card. You know, if you talk to me that way, then you're a misogynist. So she constantly defaulted to the feminist position, and kept arguing that and saying, well, if you don't accept the feminist, you're disrespecting women, you are therefore a misogynist. If you're a misogynist, you are therefore a fascist. If you're a fascist, you are therefore a Nazi. If you're a Nazi, you're therefore fucking Hitler. And so she went down that classic sort of path there. And so I didn't really have much sympathy for her. Now, there was a point when it got quite catty between her and some of the staff, from the looks of it, where, you know, she would call them names, they'd call her names back, and so they were, you know, using these petty little put downs on each other. Now, at that point, the management, school management, should have intervened. Hey, you're all acting like fucking children. Stop it, and you fucking get that. I think, you know, there should have been, well, maybe not the expletives, but the management should have intervened to say, hey, this is not the way for anyone to behave. You know, we're professionals here, and we're dedicated teachers to teaching, you know, whatever subjects they're teaching, and looking after the students' welfare in terms of you know, in this case, of course, education. So they didn't, the management didn't intervene, or didn't intervene too late. She then goes to the management as a victim and says, well, I'm a victim. You have to take my side against them. They didn't. So she cites that then as well. They have more misogyny, more fascism, more Nazism, more Hitler. And so I was unconvinced there. Now, on top of this, she then says, well, I became so stressed in the middle of this, I had to take stress leave and seek you know, compensation for stress, and I'm a victim, Now, let's suppose it is the case that she believes she's being mistreated. She's alleging that she's a highly qualified teacher. The allegation is that she can get a job anywhere she wants at any time because she is so fucking good. And yet she decides to stay. Now, that doesn't make any sense. She stays to a point where she claims she's so stressed she can't even work. She can't function. She's that stressed she cannot function. Now, they're using this in the hit piece to say, well, that's how bad things must be. Look at this reasonable woman, this highly qualified woman, reasonable, years of experience at the apex of her profession. And look what's happened. Look at this. This shows how bad this school is. Look at those fucking damn fucking misogynist fucking patriarchy Nazis. Look what they're doing to this woman. I mean, you know, now, let's suppose you are that qualified and you come across any workplace, whether it be there or wherever. And I think we've all been in workplaces we perceive as dysfunctional or difficult, then, and you're as credentialed as this woman teacher claims to be, then you would go somewhere else and get a job. You'd say, oh, gee, guys, this is not working out, and it's a pity, but, and off you'd go. But instead she stays. She stays through all the supposed stress, to levels of stress that she cannot even function day to day. She's got to claim you know, compensation and special stress. She's even got to go to the Human Rights Commission because of the oppression and the misogyny and that she's suffering. Now, you don't do that if you're that well credentialed. This is a no-win for her in terms of career and so on. If it's getting that way, why don't you just go and, you know, again, you can get a job anywhere. You're so fucking good, according to the blurb. So just go and get another job. Now, you know, there's places where, you know, I've worked where I've thought it's, wow, this is a bit on the dysfunctional side. So I'll try and sort something out. I thought, well, hey, you know, like, what can I do to make it easier? And I'd even sit down and, you know, if there's an issue with the boss, saying, look, I don't want to be on the wrong side. I mean, I'll paraphrase this a bit. I don't want to be in the wrong side. I want to get on with you. I want to be the employee that you want and you want to have around and so on. You know, clearly it's not the job I'm doing. So is there something else here? And tell me what you want and I'll do it. And, you know, sort of. Now, if the guy, you know, your boss has got a set against you no matter what, then I don't care what you do. You know, and you know that they're going to look for some sort of excuse to get rid of you at some point. So say, okay, well, look, it's clearly not working out. I wish you well, and I hope everything goes all right. But best I move on, and best you get someone else to do this. That's the way you handle it. You just go on. You just go somewhere else. There's no point. Now you got the options. We'll take the guy to court or something. Do this or do. And I mean, no, that's not going to achieve anything unless you've been clearly wronged by law. Like they refuse to pay you or something like that. But other than that, just go and do something else. There's no point in the turning it into a confrontation or some sort of trial of strength. But that's what this woman chose to do. Instead of going off and getting another job, she's decided, no, this is the fault line of a massive gender conflict issue. And I'm going to bring in every government authority. I'm going to bring in the media. I'm going to bring in everyone I can to do what exactly? Because we have to fight back against these fucking misogynist Nazis. So now, how did that woman get that job? Because, if I was doing the interviews and doing the selection, I wouldn't have hired somebody like that. You could see the problems, before she, you can just imagine someone with that attitude and the sort of problems that she'd have. If she's going off to gender empowerment conferences, that's the last thing you fucking want. That you're dealing with an activist here who will be looking to stir up trouble and invent trouble and fabricate trouble and create all sorts of drama. Now, unfortunately, this woman was in an environment that isn't sympathetic to her feminist agitation. So inevitably, the outcome was almost inevitable. And you got to wonder, was she a plant being put in there by other? I would guess, yeah, because the radical feminists and all this, that their sights are set on these sorts of institutions. In this case, a boys' school, they're set on these institutions, or any institution where they think it's a bastion of maleness. It must be feminized. It must have LGBTQ counselors. It must have black lesbian headmasters. It must, and so on. They've got to crush anything that is a place where white people, particularly white men, or in this instance boys, get together. They must be crushed and eradicated, like white society, crushed and eradicated. Now, I think the hit piece was also dishonest. For example, they quote this young girl who's supposed to be an expert in rape for some reason. I don't know how, I don't know. She comes from a wealthy background and talks like a privileged, entitled, wealthy young girl. She'll never have to work. She doesn't want to. Somehow, as soon as she leaves high school, she gets recruited into this United Nations sponsored, funded NGO to fight rape against women. And so she's got this international stage. Publishing deals are organized for her, and she's an icon, a darling of she's fighting back against the patriarchy and misogyny and so on. So and they talk to her because she's some authority on the matter or something, and she comes out with a few, rape's everywhere. Every woman is raped 10 times a day, 100 times, 1,000 times a day. Comes out with all these ridiculous numbers that are asserted and not verified, ridiculous claims and so on. So now there was another case where there was a young, quite good-looking woman, very much the blonde bimbo look, and she's supposedly some genius in a very male-dominated field of study, and so she comes straight out of university and gets hired as a teacher. Now, this is a school. This is sort of strikes me as a bit odd here. This is a school that can hire anybody they want. They're some of the best paid teaching jobs in the country, so they can attract the best talent, by far the best talent. And the difference between private school teachers, for the main, you do get exceptions. The difference between private school teachers and public school teachers, government schools are very, so the commitment that the private school teachers, they're better paid, but they also, it's like a calling. They want to be excellent teachers rather than just be public servants, as they often are in the government schools. So a big difference in the quality of the teachers, and similarly at the same time their commitment to the students. They want every student to get an A grade and to actually have earned the A grade through academic achievement and so on. So anyway, so they can get any teacher they want, but they hire this blonde chick straight out of university. Clearly, she's got an affirmative act. She's like a professional uni student. Clearly, she's got affirmative action degrees. I mean, you listen to her talk. There's no fucking way she got those degrees. But anyway, so you got this affirmative action bimbo chick who then they hire as a teacher straight out of university. That's dumb. That's dumb. That is something. I mean, if you want to create problems, that's the way you do it. If you can create problems yourself, you do it that way. Now, this young woman liked to wear sexy outfits to school. The professional outfit wasn't something she had the dizzy chick hair and the makeup and the tight-fitting outfits. She then complains that the senior high school boys are making passes at her and show us a photograph of you in a bathing costume. These sorts of things. Also, that's the allegation. I don't know what evidence is really there. I would guess none. But anyway, that's the allegation that the show is pushing. So she complains with outrageous misogyny. Again, Nazi Hitler personally is doing this. Now, rather than treat it as a 17-year-old boy who's infatuated with this hot-looking 26-year-old woman, rather than that they instead try and turn it into again it's yet another patriarchy misogyny issue. But the woman, the teacher, wants this treated as a patriarchy misogyny issue, and what we have to do is we have to bring in the lesbians to lecture these fucking kids on how evil and Nazi and fascist and they are. That's what we have to do. And so again, why would you hire a woman who has those, or anyone for that matter, who has those views? They've, in both cases of these two women teachers, they've hired either someone who was an activist or the activists got to them and said, this is what you have to do. You've got to fight the battle against misogyny. So somehow they were got to. Now, I would suspect it's in 2K women that got out of their depth. They'd been, as one was a uni thing, got an affirmative action degree, and then she realized, holy fuck, I'm out of my depth here. The embarrassment of it all. I've got to scream misogyny or rape or something to justify my sense of shame that I can't really cut it in the big league. And I think the same for the woman who'd been a government school teacher, and she goes to a private school and finds, whoa, I can't play in this league. I've got to scream misogyny from the rooftops, and that'll cover up for my sense of inadequacy and my failure. And I've got to say that it's it's a boys' club, and they were oppressing me. So I think it went down. I think that's what happened, and they just picked insecure, sensitive people who were ashamed that they couldn't compete at the level that they needed to. Now they should have, in my view, they should have just accepted that and said, okay, well, fuck, I thought I was the real deal, but I'm not. I'll go and work as a preschool teacher, which is about my level, and or a government high school out somewhere else, which is my level. But hey, I like it here. These great facilities at the school. It's a nice area. It's nice shops. It's clean. There's not the issues there are at the poverty in the government high schools. So I want all those things. I've got a really nice office, and the car park. My car isn't getting vandalised by groups of students. I've got all the things, but it's just that I can't actually play in this league. I can't. I'm just not up to the standard here. Rather than they just accept that and go back, they just say, well, if I can actually lower the standard here, if I can lower the standard, then I can fit in. So all I have to do is scream victim and scream misogyny and scream Nazis until they lower the standard, affirmative action, until they lower the standard, then I can fit in and then everything will be fine. So it's not my fault that I can't fit in. It's the fault of those fucking straight, white, fucking fascist, fucking Nazis. It's their fault. So if I can get them to lower the standards, then, and the way to do that is to scream, misogyny and so on. So I think that's the overall architecture of the thing, and nothing else. Coming back to the school now, it seems the school started going through the process of, we need to, do a part feminizing of the school, the teaching and of the staff. So, and now I think they could, maybe they went out genuinely to hire the best quality female teachers they could find, without understanding that the radical feminist teachers are the only options you get, and people that are going to scream, misogyny from the rooftops at every opportunity. But their hiring decisions were not good, in my opinion. Their hiring decisions were not good at this school, and they hired people with a big chance that they were going to be activists and cause problems. And the type of activism that these teachers have got involved in, the women teachers they hired, suggests that somehow they were planted there. I just refuse to believe that they could have hired this many teachers. They could have hired only a small number of female teachers, and like all of them have been a problem, and all of them have been calling out misogyny and boys' club and patriarchy and this sort of thing. That just, to me, doesn't sound right at all. So I think they were plants put in there for the sole purpose of stirring up trouble. And this is very much the playbook of the activists. You get a company of 1,000 people, you just put one transgender person in there, and then you can morally demand that the other 999 employees all change their behaviour to suit the one trans person. That's very much the playbook, and I think this is what was going on here. So I was disappointed with the. I'm sure there were things you could complain about or point out or say were shortcomings in the school, but instead they've just gone with the straight gender, the gender talking points type stuff, and it's and I think it let down what could have been an interesting one. Also lacked balance. To say, okay, or maybe there are misogyny issues, maybe there are, but it's a boys only school with pretty much all men. So I don't know how much misogyny you can have when there's only a handful of women there. And the women teachers are recent anyway. So now, the prejudice that they bring to these things, this leftist media out, that they start from a point of maximum prejudice. These people are bad, they are misogynist, they are boys' club, they are Nazis, they are fascists, they are patriarch, all of those stuff there. So it's just a case of explaining it to the viewers rather than saying, well, let's start from the beginning. Why aren't they talking about the activism of the teachers, the female teachers? Why aren't they asking the questions? Well, look, if it was so bad, Billie Jean, there, why don't you just go and get another job? Why stay and absolutely roll around in the suffering and the victimhood for forever? Well, why do that? Why not just go and get another job? If it was better everywhere else you've been and it's only bad here, then why didn't you just go and get, those sort of questions don't get asked, and they should be if they were to produce a balanced documentary. You've been Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.